What's up, guys? I am Jesse and we are here today. We are Adventure Endeavor. So recently we've been getting a lot of questions about our hitch, what we run, if we like it, the good, the bad, the ugly. So today we are going to be talking about things that we actually dislike about our hitch. There are a few, there's not too many. But if you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe. And if you like the video, hit that like button. It really helps us out. Let's get to it. Well, alright guys, so as you can see, this is the hitch we're going to be talking about today. This is the Andersen Ultimate Connection. So we've had this hitch for probably, I'm horrible with time, but 8 to 10 months, I'd say. We are full-time and we move about every 2 weeks. We try to stay in each spot about 14 days. We're almost 100% boondocking. We got solar, we got 100 gallons of fresh. So that's our schedule, that's our routine, just so you know. Let's start off by saying that I normally just leave the hitch in the bed and we try to use the truck as a truck. We do have a toolbox and it does clear, which is nice. But this brings me to the first con with this hitch. And this is all just an opinion, but this is my first dislike of this hitch. So this is one of my first cons of this hitch, is that it's aluminum. So as you can tell, it gets a little bit of wear and tear on the rails here, up here, kind of all over the place, because it's in the bed and it lives in the bed and we are full time, and if we take it out, we don't have a great place to store it. So one of my big fears with this hitch is that eventually one day I'm going to throw something in the bed of the truck, something that has some substantial weight to it, and it might come in contact with one of these down tubes here. One of these down tubes gets a dent in it or a decent crack or something like that. I feel like it's just going to completely destroy the hitch, and when you put that, 3,000 pounds of weight in the bed of the truck on top of the hitch, if you hit a bump too hard or something going down the road, or you have to do an emergency braking situation, I just really feel like it's just gonna crumple with that aluminum. So that's something that I worry about, and we really try our best to make sure we're not putting anything heavy on it, around it, hitting it with anything or anything like that. So that's something to be aware of if you're gonna run this hitch. There's this one photo that floats around on the internet, Facebook groups, forums, all that. And it's one of these hitches that's crumpled. I don't have any explanation. Everyone just says, oh, these hitches fail. Like, that's literally the comments that everyone puts. If you guys have an explanation to what happened with that hitch in that photo, make sure you put it down in the comments, because I've done research. The only thing that I've heard, but I don't have any actual proof of it, is basically that the guy was in a very bad accident where he had to slam on the brakes, he rear-ended somebody, somebody rear-ended him, and that's all hearsay. There's no proof of that as far as I know, but if you guys know what's happened with that one photo of a crumpled up Andersen, put it in the comments, let me know. I would like to know more info, and that just kind of goes hand in hand with the aluminum. Got to be careful, you got to treat it kindly. Alright guys, I'll try to give you a good view of this here, but this is my dislike number 2. The big problem with this hitch is that it's extremely wide and extremely deep, meaning you lose a lot of bed space. I understand why they did it. I believe with the triangle shape that they have, the wider they made it, the stronger it would be. So it's totally understandable that they need to keep the hitch nice and wide to keep it stable, which in turn they can keep it lightweight with the aluminum. Otherwise, you could probably go narrower like some other hitches I've seen, but they're going to be steel and they're going to be extremely heavy. Alright guys, so this is something that I dislike very much about this hitch. In our state of California and a lot of states around, a hitch like this, because it's a ball mount, requires safety chains. the safety chains are not that big of a deal, but what is a pain in the butt is when you're hitching up, you have your trailer all the way in to hitch up your hitch, and you drop it down on the ball, and then you have to kind of awkwardly climb into the bed in order to hitch up, first of all, to do your lever, and then secondly, to do the safety chains. The safety chains are kind of a pain in the butt. It's just tight, it's awkward, and with a conventional hitch like a BMW or a Husky or a Kurt, you don't have to have these safety chains. When I was talking about hooking up the chains, kind of crawling in the bed and hooking them up, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So with our old hitch, it was a BMW. Basically, I just, like this, stand on the tire of the truck, come over here, I would just lock the jaw, drop the pin, and that was that. So it was pretty simple in comparison to this, where you have to do the slide lever to lock in the ball, and then you have to hook the chains as well. Something else that is slightly annoying is they don't have a dedicated spot for your trailer brakes breakaway cable. I've seen some people put them down here where you hook your chains. We have these two mounts here for our chains, but I don't like it. It feels like the cable's coming under here, and I wish they put a ring possibly on here just to clip it to, or maybe drilled a hole through here. And I don't know what is going on exactly, so I don't want to be drilling holes or anything like that. So right now, I literally just wrap it around this tube and hook it back on itself. It's okay, but it's something that I dislike to a certain extent, and it's a slight inconvenience. As far as towing with the hitch and smoothness, it's pretty good. There's no chucking, which is great. I do notice though, I think there's a little bit more sway and tail wag than I had with my previous BMW. In high wind situations, or for instance, we went over a railroad crossing and it was at a slight angle. Basically, the trailer rocked back and forth a lot more than I remember noticing. So here's another issue that we have experienced. No, it's probably a combination of our truck being lifted, but then as well, I believe it's a combination of the Andersen hitch. So we do tons of boondocking and we're always going into these crazy locations, and what has happened many times is because it's on a ball, it allows the trailer to flex a lot more than your conventional, like, I guess it's called like a jaw type standard hitch, like a BMW or a Husky or whatever. So something that we've experienced is we haven't been able to get into certain spots because the trailer is flexing so much in relation to the bed that we hit our bed rails on the underside, right here on the underside of the fifth wheel. And like I said, I believe this is a combination of my truck being slightly lifted and the Andersen just flexing out way more than your normal hitch, which could be a good thing because when you're using a standard hitch like a Husky or a BMW, that's probably a lot of stress when the trailer is trying to flex away from the truck. So that's not a good thing either. It's just something we've experienced with this hitch that we didn't experience with our previous hitch, and something that you should keep in mind if you're looking at grabbing the Andersen. Here you have it. This is probably the biggest con of the Andersen hitch for me personally, and that is that you have to raise the trailer jacks extremely high. So raising them very high is kind of bad because it puts a lot of stress on the jacks. If you overextend them, it can cause them to leak. We actually have one that's leaking very little. But then I just feel like personally, like it's not as safe. So this is a big con that we quickly realized when we got this hitch, and something that we kind of hate about it. And in various situations, you're putting it high and it's dangerous, it's kind of sketchy. So yeah, that's something to be extremely aware of when getting this hitch. To solve it, as far as what I do, is I look and I make sure that depending on the area, the terrain, or whatever, we'll just add 2 or 3 more blocks on the front 2 jacks before we go ahead and unhitch. It's not a big deal, but it's something that you have to be very aware of, because the ball on the Andersen sits so high up, and then with my lifted truck, I mean, it's lifted like an inch, so it's not much, but these rams are just tall. And to get the coupler with the Andersen to drop down on, it's very high. So as you can tell, this is the coupler that you bolt on to your kingpin when you install the Andersen. And you can tell that the ball of the Andersen is just very tall in comparison to a normal hitch. I mean, I would say a normal hitch is about here, you know, almost 6 inches lower, which is quite a bit of a difference. All right, guys, so this one is technically, it's not news to me, but it's something I haven't experienced, but I want to touch on it just so people are aware. A lot of people complain that the Andersen hitch, over time, the hitch will start to twist like this on you after miles and miles of driving down the road. Andersen does sell a rubber mat that they say you should put down beforehand and then put the hitch on, and then you put the weight of your trailer on the hitch and then torque the bolts to spec. I didn't do the rubber mat just because I found out about it later on, and to be honest, this hitch has been in, it's never been removed, and we haven't had any issues. So we went ahead and we dropped the hitch onto our gooseneck ball and followed the instructions correctly, and then, you know, you put the weight of the trailer on the hitch to push it down, and then you torque all the bolts. Like I said, 6 to 8 months, we haven't had any issues, but that's a pretty common thing in forums. So you can get the rubber mat, or just read through the instructions 2 or 3 times and make sure you're torquing down the 3 bolts on the backside properly. Well, all right, guys, that's all on the Andersen hitch. I really hope you enjoyed this video. We also have an installation video for the Andersen hitch, so we'll link that as well if you're curious about how it is to install it. These are some things that we hate, or whatever you want to call it, dislike about the Andersen, but overall, it's a pretty good hitch. For us, the main reason we got it was because you can push back where you hitch up. You can gain about 9 inches of clearance, which helps you with the short bed pickup trucks. You can measure, they have a whole diagram online how you can measure to make sure that it'll help you. We can jackknife about 85 degrees, which we try to avoid, but at times, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and if you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. It really helps us out. Thanks for watching, guys.